here as Alpha Kappa Alpha because it is one of our national programs to really focus on how we support Black businesses and businesses of color to ensure success, to strengthen them, and to really promote them. And I'd like to thank you and welcome all of you on all of my D9 sisters that are out there. I see Delta Sigma Theta, I see Zeta Phi Beta, and I see Sigma Gamma Rho. Thank you for supporting.
Good evening. My name is Cece Chung, and I am a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Psi Iota Omega chapter, and also on our Building Your Economic Legacy committee, and here to co-facilitate with Farah. And also, I am an entrepreneur and a small business owner. I own Little Celebrations Rentals located in Stoughton, Massachusetts. So this discussion is very important to me as well as a small business owner, looking for resources and coming together as a community to figure out how we can get past the crisis that we're currently in.
Thank you. So as many of you know, Alpha Kappa Alpha is dedicated to implementing programs that enhance the social, economic, and educational well-being of our national, local, and international community. So as Kimberly alluded to earlier, this event is being sponsored as part of our Economic Legacy Program target, where we're really proud to promote and encourage entrepreneurship and the Black dollar. So with that, tonight, the conversation is intended to highlight successful African-American businesses while also promoting the power of the Black dollar 365 days a year. That said, tonight, our conversation will encompass 5 dynamic women in business who, despite our challenging current economic climate, are persisting in their respective entrepreneurial and business development endeavors. So please join us in welcoming Taisha Creighton, Sheena Collier, Nia Grace, Edwidge Lafleur, and Sharonda White to our virtual discussion. Following the panel, we'll also hear from the Center for Women in Enterprise about available resources for women business owners or women who are thinking about starting a business, as well as Chris Cooney from the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. Following the resources, there'll also be an opportunity for you to direct any one-on-one questions to individual panelists through the breakout rooms. So please keep that in mind. For individual questions, you'll have an opportunity to target those specifically to panelists. And I'll turn it over to the panelists to introduce themselves.
Unmute. Hi, everyone. I'm Taisha Creighton. I am the CEO of Nadiak Management Group, a photographer for Willowwood Photography, as well as I just started Mass by Ty, and I am excited to get started in the discussion.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Edwidge Lafleur, and I'm the director of the Center for Women in Enterprise in Eastern Massachusetts. I've been with this organization for almost 7 years, but in a previous life, I also was an entrepreneur, and I successfully ran 2 businesses. And I'm happy to be with you today, and I look forward to hearing more about you.
Good evening, Sheena Collier, founder and CEO of the Collier Connection and creator of Boston Wild Black. And I'm an agency that creates programming, events, and building a digital platform to connect Black grad students, professionals, and entrepreneurs around the city to learn how to find their tribe and navigate the city.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharonda White. I'm founder and CEO of both CAUSE-EDU and the CAUSE-EDU Academy. There's 2 platforms with one goal, and that's to help students and their families determine the best college for them at the best price for them. CAUSE-EDU is a crowdfunding platform designed specifically for students, and CAUSE-EDU Academy is a college financial planning platform for families.
Good evening. I'm Nia Grace, owner of Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen. Also the founder of Bosstown Music Festival, which preceded the Beantown Jazz Festival. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So we'll jump right into the questions.
So the first question we have is, how are you coping mentally with the changes brought forth by COVID-19, and how has it affected your business? So anyone could kind of speak up to whoever feels on their heart they want to speak to this question.
So I'll start off, this is Sheena again. So how am I coping? A lot of different ways. I think like everyone, I go back and forth between being in shock some days and other days just trying to be productive, and other days just doing nothing, and really making sure that I'm connecting with other folks so that I stay sane. On the business side, you know, having built a business that was based on in-person experiences, you know, this was, you know, even a double shock because it, you know, immediately, other than the health consequences and other things that I thought of immediately, it is basically like, how am I going to make money? Like even a lot of my, I can talk later about how my business is structured, but a lot of my income comes from consulting with companies that I'm helping them to launch new programs or new events. And so a lot of those contracts were based on in-person events. So I had to shift really quickly, like within the first 2 weeks of this, to figure out, you know, how was I going to keep my contracts? What could I pitch to these companies to show them that there was still some value in working with me? And also really quickly shifting on my, on the Boston While Black side of doing, shifting to virtual events.
This is Nia. I'll follow up to Sheena. Obviously having a restaurant, one that also has live music, a lot of our experiences are about being there in person and truly interacting. This season for us, you know, we're missing out on graduations as people are, and then just all those kind of gathering events with having lost Easter and Mother's Day coming up as well. But the coping piece for, I think, me, most importantly, has been the fact that we're such a family in our business, and having to, you know, look your family in the face and say, hey, this is a time where I don't know if I'm going to be able to support you through this, or how will we get through this together. So that was really hard, having to, we had to let go over 80%, almost 90% of our staff, and understanding that it affects their families times 3. You know, there's more than them just at home. So that first piece for us, or for me personally, was how do I kind of keep a strong mind and just focus on having a business for them to come back to, especially when we were only assuming the first 30 days or so. And now I think it was just Sunday that I sat with the very small group of staff that I have left. And I said to them, honestly, I'm gonna have to process my own personal emotions this week. You know, I haven't done that yet. That's the truth. So when I saw that question, I thought it was interesting. I was like, I gotta share. I haven't done that part yet personally for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think for me, my experience has been a little bit different, just because I was already working from home with my business. I have been since the end of January, really. And so being an introvert, working from home, I was initially fine for like the first month or so. It was like, oh, this is fine. It's what I'm doing anyway. But then I'm starting to get a little bit restless. So in terms of how I'm coping mentally, it's really just like trying to convince myself or push myself to do things that are different, so I don't have the same routine every day. As far as the business, our crowdfunding platform is online anyway. And so it hasn't been affected at all, just because students from wherever can go online and do their crowdfunding, and that hasn't changed. With the college financial planning, we'd actually started to transition to an online model early February. So before things kind of blew up with everything being shut down, we had already started transitioning. And so we were not expecting this to happen, but we were ready when it did, just because we literally launched the day before school started sending students home. And so the timing was very ironic, but it ended up working out. And so we had to stop our in-person consultations and workshops, but everything else has continued to go.
For me, I'm not an empty nester right now. I'll say that. My college kids came home. Exactly, Kimberly. My college kids came home from college, so they'll be here. I don't even know if I have one that's at Morehouse and one's at Emmanuel college. And I just got my daughter back home from New York. She was in the epicenter for 7 weeks almost in the house, pretty much couldn't go anywhere. So we just got her home this weekend. So that was probably my most nerve-wracking thing, was having her in New York. And now that she's home, I feel a little bit better. As far as the business is concerned, for me, I do owner project management, so construction really is at a halt right now unless it's something that is emergency that needs to be done. For me, I'm blessed to have my husband who also works outside of the business, so he can take care of the household, so I don't have the pressures on me financially. But however, I do understand the pressures, as I've dealt with something similar to this in 2007 and 2008 during the mortgage crisis. And I would say, I think my patience and my tolerance and my capacity of being able to flow in this space right now is due to what I went through in 2007 of losing almost everything, and then to gain a business and entrepreneur mindset. So hopefully during this process, no one gives up and no one feels like you can't get through it, because it's something like similar to this as far as financial and an economy has happened before. And I'm here to tell you, you'll get through it.
Thank you. So some of you have sort of alluded to this already in your kind of mental coping, but with everything that's going on and the sort of evolution of information and sort of the escalation as well, at what point did you realize a need to pivot and to really start to come up with some innovative ideas to sustain your business? Like, what was that process like for you all?
I'd say that weekend immediately following the state of emergency address by the governor, I believe it was like March 10th was the day that he made the announcement. That weekend, you know, if you've been to Darryl's before, you know, it's a small venue, and we can get very comfortable in the space. And what we noticed was that we probably saw a third of our customer base that weekend, and that was just that first Friday. And so we looked at that, and then Saturday it got eerily slower as well. And then by Sunday we closed early. So where we typically would have been open for brunch and dinner, you know, we closed at by 2 o'clock. I looked and was like, well, I've got to figure something else out. Something else is about to change. And luckily, talking to my peers and being in contact with them, being able to say, hey, listen, I think we all feel what kind of is going to happen next. We all should start having that idea of what we're going to do. And so immediately within that 24 hours, I had to develop a plan, and we had to enact it by that weekend.
Wow. So my last day really out and about was March 11th. I remember it fondly because March 12th, I actually wasn't feeling good. And so I made the decision to just stop. Luckily, I also work from home for the most part. And so I was just like, you know, I'm not going to go anywhere else. So I've been in, you know, other than the store and the house since March 12th. But by March 28th is when I had my first virtual party. And so I pretty quickly, I can't remember exactly what it was, but again, I keep saying, like, I'm a very in-person person. And part of the reason I even started what I'm doing is because I felt like people were getting too reliant on technology and people kind of lose some of the in-person connection that we need. However, I want to say part of it is being a full entrepreneur and having to, and what I mean is, like, I don't have a job or income or any type of benefits that's coming from a company. And so even in my own, dealing with my own feelings around it, worrying about my family. It took my mother another 2 weeks to take it seriously. So she's still out and about, going to church. So worrying about all of that, I realized, like, if you are going to, I have a fairly new house, I have other stuff that I'm responsible for, like, you have to figure out something really quickly. And so on the, you know, kind of social event side, I was talking to a homegirl of mine, honestly, and was joking around about having virtual parties. And I was like, maybe I could actually do a virtual party. So that's where that came up. On the client side, I didn't want to lose my clients. And so the way that I pitched it to them, so what I've done for the most part is pitched either virtual events to them if I was doing an event, or I'm just doing more strategy with them in this time. And I kind of pitched it like, oh, don't you want to be ahead of the curve? This is the way that, you know, the world is going. But a lot of it was out of survival. Like if I had a job, I don't know if I would have moved, my thinking would have moved as quickly. But I realized that, you know, I didn't think we'd be in the house this long, but I had no idea what was going to happen. And so, you know, I needed to make sure I at least kept kind of a base level of income.
Yeah. For us, it was actually around the same time, March 11th-ish was when the schools started announcing they were sending students home. And so we didn't pivot in terms of what we offer, we pivoted in terms of our marketing strategy, which meant that instead of going to high schools and trying to build partnerships with education organizations when they're all in crisis mode and shifting to online and they're saying, we cannot deal with you right now, we have students to worry about, we have all these things going on. And so we shifted to a business model where we relied on affiliate marketers instead. And so that was our way of being able to reach out to, you know, the parents of high school students and college students, because otherwise we would not have been able to do it. We couldn't do it through the schools. So that was one way. And then another was that in terms of who we were targeting, initially with our college financial planning, our clients, our customers were going to be, or were the parents of middle school students and high school students. And that was the majority of it. But then once this happened, the parents of middle school students were saying, this is not a priority. You know, they're dealing with their kids being, you know, homeschooled and then them having their job situations. So for them, it's just not a priority anymore. So we lost clients on that end, but then current high school juniors and seniors and current college students, we had an influx of clients coming from that end. And so there was just a shift in terms of marketing and also our customer base.
Taisha, we can't hear you. I think you might be on mute.
I'm unmuted. Thank you. I keep doing that. So for me, I think thinking back, I have to go back to two segments. One is 2007 because I flash back to that every time I think about what's happening right now. And in 2007, one of the panelists said it's survival. And a lot of times, you know, I tell people I became an entrepreneur not because I just wanted this grand opportunity to, you know, be an entrepreneur and say I'm a leader and an entrepreneur and make millions of dollars and that's what I want to do. No, that's not why I did it, because I wanted to keep the lights on in my house. I wanted to be able to keep my home. My husband's car was repossessed in 2007, and we have a home, thank God, but it was in foreclosure at the time. So we went from 6 figures to $20. So to go from that with children and being able to keep your lights on after having it shut off, like, this is survival for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially Black women and who are single parents and who are trying to make it work for their families. We go into this because we want freedom and we want the flexibility to take care of our children and have income, but at the same time, there is risk and liability to this. And so being able to go out and start my business with $20 or it was actually $21 to be exact, helped me to understand what I can do right now. So in this situation here, I'm not in the same situation as far as the survival mode, but at the same time, it's given me the capacity to understand that there is opportunity out there for everyone. And even if you're looking to make $500 a week or $300 or grocery money, whatever that is, I'm saying it from that perspective because everyone's not making millions of dollars. So if you're looking to keep your lights on like I was in 2007, then there's opportunity out there. And I actually think there's more opportunity out there because back in 2007, I didn't have social media to go to actually gain insight on the marketplace. So the marketplace will tell you what it wants. And so my pivot point was I made masks. I got a pattern, took out my sewing machine from 6 years ago. I haven't used it in 6 years. And my daughter was in New York in the epicenter. I wanted her to have something to cover her. There's no mask out there. There's nothing there. So I started sewing masks and I posted about it. just to say, hey, this is what I'm doing for my daughter. I want her to be safe. And so many people started inboxing me, can you please make it? I'll pay you. I'll take care of. And I gave some away. And then I'm like, you know what? This is an opportunity here. So the marketplace will tell you what it needs and what it wants. Most of the times we're looking at what we want to do, and where, you know, that's not construction. Why would I sew masks? I mean, for me, design is design. So I'm looking at architecture, I'm looking at plans, I'm looking at blueprints. Well, that's what a pattern is. It's measurements. It's the same thing. So we have to look at what we do every single day in our businesses and figure out how can we turn that into dollars, because at the end of the day, business is, if you're in business, hopefully it's not for habit, it's not for hobby, it's for you to make money. So at the end of the day, it's for me to make money and to bring it to my family and to take care of my family. I can't help somebody else if I am not able to help myself. So it's about pouring from a full glass versus trying to pour from an empty cup. And so in order for me to do that, I have to be able to look at what are my resources now? So I'm always looking at what do I have in my hand right now? I have a sewing machine. Back in 2007, I had a mop, a broom, cleaning products. We had a snow plow and a vacuum cleaner. And I started that business with that and was able to get contracts with a government agency after that. But I didn't start out wanting to have contracts. I started out survival, taking care of my family. What's in your hand right now that you can use?
Nice. And to segue that is into my next question too, because me owning a small business, there's a lot of things I wish I knew before this, or ways I could have prepared myself differently, you know, now understanding a lot of the ways to get funding or certain things like that. So can anyone speak to any way you would have probably prepared things differently for these changes, or things you wish you knew in this current situation that you would have probably felt like, I know, Ty, you could probably speak to this because you went through this before. So that first experience to you was a learning experience, but what is this second time, you know, so something like that.
Okay, so you're asking what would I do differently financially?
Financially, just knowing how to prepare for something like this, for a crisis like this, like the economy going.
The thing about now is it's new for everybody. So it's not, you can have 6 months. When we started in 2007, when I became an entrepreneur, we had 6 months of savings, reserves, and we went through all of that. And so as much as we want to plan and prepare and have everything in order, there are going to have times, like people have crisis all the time. We're having a pandemic right now, right? But there are other people that have crisis in their lives, whether it's sickness, illness, health, whatever it is that happens in your life, there may be a crisis. So you prepare as much as possible for it. So for us, it's from 2007 to now, there are things that I learned. One is to have multiple streams of income and not just have your eggs in one basket. Okay, so for me now, and I was kidding with CC, I was like, at this point, I'm a serial entrepreneur. But it's because I learned from my business in 2007, I put all my eggs in one basket with Fannie Mae and the projects that we were doing, and then they started dwindling down. What do you do then? You know, so there are things that I didn't know then that I know now, and that is having multiple streams of income. So having my husband still work, and then we also do business. He helps me with business, and also me being an entrepreneur, it helps our family. And you have to think about what's your vision for your family, like whether it's this crisis or a personal crisis. What do you have that you want to do for your family, and how you're going to navigate that? So I think sometimes we forget the plan is not just for your business. The plan is for you. And for me, it's for me and my family. So what is that goal for you? And preparing for that, I would say now I'm very proud that we're not in the same position we were in 2007 with $21 and some cleaning products. It got me to where I am now. So the history of it makes you who you are, the survival, but at the same time, I learned the lessons of making sure I have multiple streams of income and not pour everything into one.
I would say these not so much things that I wish I knew, but things that I felt like helped me be prepared. and that I've seen some of my friends, our fellow entrepreneurs, not necessarily have. One I would say is like stay up to date on your taxes, because that made it really quick and easy for me to apply for federal funding, because I have all that stuff up to date. And along with that, I have relationships. I have an ongoing relationship with an accountant, a tax accountant, a bookkeeper, and a lawyer. And so when I had questions along the way, I could just quickly ask them because I already have an ongoing relationship with them. And that was huge in helping me to fill out things the right way, know what to apply for or not to apply for. Just a tip for everyone that my tax accountant gave me was like, just apply for everything and let them deny you. And along with that, I would also say like having a business bank account, and already having a relationship, like a business relationship with a bank, particularly for the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm sure people heard about, you have to apply through a bank. And so it was easier for me to get it done because my bank was one of the banks that was doing it. But I think, and then also as I'm receiving other kind of funding besides my income through consulting, I'm able to keep that money separate because there's all types of ways that you need to track it and be able to report back. So those are just some of the things for me, I would say, but particularly like having your taxes up to date. I was able to quickly, I could quickly look and see what was my revenue from last year, like what was my income, because I keep those things up to date.
Any of the other panelists want to chime in about just how you were able to prepare for any kind of unexpected events, or maybe lessons learned or lessons that are ongoing?
I would say for us, one of the things that we took away from this was having a crisis plan. Yeah, we talk about this situation being a fairly unique pandemic, but just in general, be it a weather crisis, just to be able to know if your business is going to be out of service for whatever point in time, and the staff that you have to, that they're your responsibility, being able to be accountable to them by actually having a plan in place that everyone can understand and digest. So that was one of the things where, we have a handbook, we've got training materials, but when it came to this particular piece and all those documents, this was missing. And so what we took from this was having that crisis plan be whatever that emergency is, to kind of get us through it.
Awesome, thank you. Now, some of you have talked a little bit about how you've shifted your business model to adjust for the changing kind of economic climate and different processes with the crisis plan. How has technology enabled some of these adaptations, if at all? And are there any tools or resources that you would suggest to other business owners or people thinking about starting a business?
Well, of course, Zoom, because it's just become all of our best friend. But I've actually been doing research on other platforms that are more engaging, I would say, for events. And you're able to do a little bit more with being interactive, and you can't necessarily recreate an event virtually, but there's ways that I think you can make it more exciting for folks. I've moved essentially everything to technology, and I think there's a balance because it can get tiring. This is probably like the 4th Zoom I've been on today, and I think there's just a fatigue I think that we all get sometimes from kind of interacting this way. But finding ways to do it to make it still fun for people, having people either like all cook a meal and bring their meal at the same time, like other things that you can do that enhances the experience a little bit. And the other thing it allowed me to do that I actually, I was gonna do pre-COVID, but I think this was maybe more efficient. So I mentioned I'm launching this membership, Boston While Black. And so I had planned to do these forums throughout the spring with people to talk about like what basically like a membership info session. And I was able to do those virtually instead and make them into smaller groups. So I've done maybe 6 of them. Tomorrow's the last one. So altogether, I'll probably have done like 75 people. But people can talk directly to me and say, I actually want you to add this. I'm thinking about, you know, this is what I would want to use. This is how much I would want to pay for it. And I don't think I would have gotten that in an actual in-person event.
So I think for us, technology has really helped us in terms of adapting our marketing strategy. You know, we thought about whether or not we wanted to build our platform ourselves or just go with an existing company like Thinkific or some other company for a white label approach, which we ended up doing. And so when we transitioned to this affiliate marketer model, everything was already set up. We didn't have to do anything from scratch. Thinkific handles all of that for us. And so we were able to just say, okay, we want to do affiliate marketing. This is the percentage that we'll pay for whatever they, you know, bring in terms of business. And the technology side of it took care of everything. And so that just made it so much easier for us, and one less thing that we had to worry about, and one less thing we had to pay somebody to do because it was already built into the platform.
Thank you so much. What are 3 tips you have for new entrepreneurs or current small business owners during this time? If anyone wants to give some tips.
I will start talking, because this is a platform we're talking about Black women in business, and I know Kimberly's here as well, but CWE, I was able to get a mentorship for a 1-year mentorship awarded through CWE for Blue Cross Blue Shield to have mentors from executive leaders of Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that was very helpful to understand big operation as far as, you know, invoicing and marketing department. I had someone in the construction who was actually, it's a woman head of the construction department as well. So to be paired with mentors of that caliber, I would not have had those opportunities if I was not part of CWE. And also for Greater New England Minority Supply Development Council. It's an extremely long name, but they're in Connecticut, and the name of their actual organization is the New England part, but it's nmsdc.org, and you can get certified through them as well as a minority business. And I believe Kimberly mentioned the state as well as the city of Boston. So there's many avenues to become certified, but there's also the federal. So many times I hear a lot of people talk about the state and the city of Boston, but the federal is the largest buyer of goods and services. And so when I started in 2007, our contract that we landed is with Fannie Mae, which is a federal agency, and that is where we got majority of our business. I would say about 85% of our business was through Fannie Mae. And so I would not have even known about Fannie Mae having an RFI out for a contractor to have semi-exclusive services with them if I was not a part of Greater New England Minority Supply Development Council. And I was certified through them as well. And the certifications can be a little tedious sometimes because they do ask you for the same information for a lot of the agencies, and that's why they're reciprocal right now for the state with Greater New England and with CWE, which is very helpful. The state is the free one. The other ones do have a minimal fee, but I would suggest that you get certified, and it doesn't mean that you're going to get business. So a lot of times people get certified and think that money, you know, people are going to say, hey, we have a diversity goal and this is what we want to do. And that's not what happens, but it does, I call it a VIP pass. It gets your foot in the door because you have an opportunity to talk about, your business and say you're a minority supplier, you're a minority owned business or a women owned business. And if you're African American woman, you're both. You're a women owned business and a minority owned business. And then in the federal side, you're a disadvantaged business. So there's many avenues to it, but I just want to put that in your ear, because right now the federal government is going to have a capacity of contracts that they're going to be putting out, and there's going to be goals attached to that, because there are goals attached to every federal contract. There are sole source, but there's also federal goals. And so it's a longer process than what I'm saying, but I just want to make sure you look online, and I can send it to Farah or whomever to make sure you have it. But I know that Kimberly is going to talk a little bit more about CWE, but CWE is part of it, but also the federal government is a great avenue, and CWE does have a connection with the federal government as well. But get certified. Your minority business, your women business, your disadvantaged business enterprise. If you're a veteran, you're veteran-owned, get all the certifications that you can, because you don't know which one's going to open that door for you.
Thank you. Sorry, because we're just pressed for time, but I do want to hear from some others on 3 quick tips you could give to some people on the call. I know someone asked a question about nonprofit organizations as well.
So I think for me, I'll give 2 tips. The first is stay as lean as possible. For us, the reason that we were really able to weather the storm is because of the 4 of us, I'm the only one that's full-time. The other 3 on our team are part-time, and then they have full-time jobs. And so they're able to not take a salary right now. They have their full-time incomes. So we're not paying them out of our budget. And that was really helpful for us. There are so many other things that we came into this already being lean on, so that we didn't have to cut too much, because our costs were already pretty low. The second thing is consider everything. And I know Ty mentioned earlier, she has a construction company, but then she was doing masks and doing other things. And so it's not always about, okay, our business is, we don't have as much business. How do we pivot the business? It could be, what other things can I do in my personal life to offset my income, so that I'm not having to drastically change my business and pivot into something that we don't want it to be. And so that is extremely important. And as Sheena mentioned, having your personal finances in order, so that way your business itself can continue to operate. It's not always about sink or swim. Sometimes it's just float, right? Sometimes it's just, how does the business continue while you cut your other expenses so that you can maintain your business?
Yeah, I would, add to that, find out to what you're saying about finding other ways to serve folks. I would say find out what your audience needs. If you already have an audience, and serve them, and also checking in with them and not just trying to sell them during this time. I think on the floating piece, some people, you may not be able to sell whatever your product or service is right now, but staying connected so that when things are, whatever the next version of normal is going to look like, that people are not like, oh, where's she coming off from all of a sudden trying to sell me this thing? I haven't heard from her in months. So I think that that's really important. And then I would say, just take care of yourselves and figure out maybe 1 or 2 things that you want to get accomplished in this time. And I started off, I would say the first 3 or 4 weeks, I had full schedule every day, from 8-9 hours, I was doing something. I couldn't even tell y'all what I was doing, because I don't even have that many clients, but I had a full schedule, to where I started to relax and give myself more grace and more room. And now I make a list at the beginning of the week of 4 or 5 major things I need to get done. And then I just focus on those and give myself the time to grieve. And, I have friends that are losing family members. There's stuff that's going on that we also have to acknowledge is happening right now. And so I think, figuring out a couple major things you want to get accomplished and let the rest go.
I think one of the tips that I have is about the workforce from the beginning, hiring a diverse workforce that would allow them in times like this to take on another role in the business. That's what we've had to do. We've had to maybe let go of some and reposition and assign others. And that has been a lifeline for us at this point, being able to have that diverse workforce and thinking about that from the onset of hiring them. And additionally, for us, I think not just networking, but actually being a participant, and that goes a little bit further by participating in different boards or events. I've been able to move things forward for the business at this point in time, much like having a good banking relationship or, just knowing someone who can make a word for you or try to move a legislation for you, is particularly for us in the restaurant industry. So not just being a person who's there to network, but actually participating and letting them see your work and understand what your value and your contribution is to the body.
Thank you. So before we transition to hearing a little bit more about the resources through CWE and the Metro South Chamber, wanted to ask really briefly, are there particular financial resources that you would recommend to anyone who's in the discussion now that have helped to influence your day-to-day operations? And more specifically, we received a question from one of the attendees about whether anyone has taken advantage of the payment protection program and what that process was like. And is it different in any way because you might be a solo entrepreneur?
So I'll say that we did apply for the payroll protection program and we did receive it. But we're at a crossroad where we likely will not be able to utilize it based off of the criteria that they set forth for us. So if we were maybe in an independent business, or if we didn't have regulations set on us that, still marked for social distancing as well as a stay-at-home advisory, that caveat of once you receive the loan, you have 8 weeks to spend it, as well as up until June 30th to rehire all of your full-time staff in order for it to be forgiven, is something that we're unable to do. So, where the governor has extended our stay home till May 18th, truth be told, we are not going to open before June 1st. And that's a personal decision, but we just know that that's also going to be something that gets pushed back. So now, they tell us that within 30 days, we've got to hire all of our staff back and then spend all the money that they gave us in order for it to be forgiven. That doesn't protect us. And truthfully, what we're actually facing right now, particularly in our industry, is that we got a lot of staff that are not going to come back to work because they're getting paid right now from the government, that it kind of is better for them to stay home right now. So we're at a crossroads when it comes to that particular program and how it's going to help, if it's going to help.
Oops. I just got, I did get in the second round, got PPP, and, I mentioned a lot of it, I think, had to do with the banking relationship that I had. I'm in a very different situation than Nia, like I am a solopreneur. So I've kept myself hired and paying myself, but I'll actually share with you all with Farah. I have a running list of grants that I've been coming across. I just happen to be on like a lot of different listservs. And so there are a number of Verizon lists, like all these places that are just have out these like $10,000 grants or $5,000. I haven't gotten any of those other ones yet. The city of Boston was doing something, maybe still is doing something for small businesses. So I'll definitely share that. And some of them might be outdated, but also just share this document. But I think in general, I don't even know, I'm already on a lot of lists, so that's how I'm getting them. But I think there are certain places like the City of Boston's website, the Chamber, where I still consult, they've been sending out some good information about where people can look for resources. So I'll share those so that they can go out to attendees. But I think that it's like I said before, apply for anything you see, literally. And some of them are more cumbersome than others. Some of them are understand that we're in a crisis. Some of them are like, we want your whole business plan. But I think, as much as you can, just applying for things, whether or not they seem like they apply to you.
One thing that's also a possibility could even just be taking out a business credit card and then doing a balance transfer so that way you have 0% interest for 18 months. That's something that doesn't require a lot of paperwork. It's relatively simple, and it can allow you to kind of float for a little while, at least for a couple of months or a few months in terms of business expenses. If you also have any sort of investors, I know in our case we have two, but there's also the possibility of saying, hey, we need additional funding. And so that's something else that you can look into. And then someone had also asked about nonprofits. Having multiple income streams is really important, not just grants, but also some sort of earned income.
Thank you everyone for sharing. And that will help us transition into additional resources that are available through the Center for Women in Enterprise, and we'll also hear from the Chamber. So from the Center for Women and Enterprise, we have Edwidge Lafleur, and we also have a local additional business owner, Vicki Gray, who has been able to take advantage of resources through the CWE. So Edwidge, we would love to hear from you a little bit more about who CWE is as an organization and how it's helped women-owned businesses succeed in the Massachusetts area.
You're on mute. Edwidge, I think you're on mute. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Mute.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Thanks so much, Farah. I'm sorry. Yes, I really enjoy listening from all of you, the panelists. It was very, very enriching. And a lot of there were so many common links, common threads with what we are seeing and the way we've been handling counseling our clients. In terms of background, like Kimberly mentioned initially, CWE is a nonprofit. We've been around since 1995 with a mission to help entrepreneurs launch and grow their business, depending on the stage you're at. And to do that, we offer education and training on business planning, business management, as well as technical assistance. We have a good network of counselors who are all volunteers and who are willing to offer their shared expertise with our clients on a pro bono basis. And we also help clients get certified through the WeBank certification program, which gives them access to corporate contracts and allow them to leverage their services and products with a national network of women-owned businesses. So basically, a lot of our programs have been centered on training and education. In the past, some of our flagship programs have been such programs as a 10-week business planning program that takes participant people in the startup phase who have an idea or not sure about how to bring it to fruition. So when they enroll in this program, we take them step by step to the process of developing a viable funding-ready business plan that they can use either as a general roadmap or as a funding document if they're seeking funding. And at the same time, those clients and many other clients come to us and who needs to meet with a general business strategy, so a lawyer to inquire about the legal structure that would be best suited for their kind of business, an accountant, a taxation specialist, a branding and marketing specialist. They get to meet with all those counselors on a pro bono basis, and they can meet with them as long as they need to. And for those who are working on their business plan, they get to be assigned a counselor who helps them fine-tune their business plan until it is really ready, it makes sense, it's sustained, the business model is vetted and it's sustainable. In regard to the COVID-19 epidemic, we were able, like a lot of you, to readjust our programs very quickly, and we've turned all of our offerings into a virtual mode. We kept on we've been offering our regular classes, virtually, and as well as our counseling sessions also have been offered through Zoom, Suite meeting, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, we realized that we needed to shift our focus in terms of programming and offering to basically scale up the areas of resiliency, sustainability. We've also been helping, because we are funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration, and which we are what we call a resource partner. So we've become one of their arms, most active arms, in the sense of informing our clients and the public about the different programs that are available to the federal government, the EIDL loan program, the PPP, and the bridge loan programs. We've also helped kind of a few hundreds of people navigate through the different programs available and help them make the best choice, a choice that is most suitable for their particular situation, because for some people, the PPP wasn't an option, but the EIDL was, or for some people, the unemployment extension was an option rather than anything else that was being offered. And so we have a good list of resources on our webpage about these different resources, whether being the loans available through the SBA program, whether grants available through the municipalities, the state, and foundations and all that. And all this information is listed on our website. And one of the things also that we've done with being able to share our information also to the Spanish community. So a lot of our programs and offerings are being done in Spanish. A lot of our outreach is being done in Spanish for the Spanish-speaking people population. So meaning that we have been able to touch a large array, a diverse network of people. And so we continue doing so, especially now the second wave of the CARES Act program. And in fact, we have seen a good number, a steady increase in the number of participants. In fact, we used to prefer holding live sessions, in-person sessions, in most of our classrooms, were live session programs. But, and then they were, I would say that we used to have sometimes a hard time, a difficult time filling the classes, filling the slots. But with the virtual program, with the Zoom, the Office Suite, and the webinars, we've been having, we've seen our attendance almost triple, which has been very interesting. And then to us, it was a very good thing to have been able to shift very quickly. We did already have the infrastructure in place, which allowed us to do it very quickly without any major changes or whatever. But in fact, we've seen a good steady increase in the number of people attending our program, the people reaching out for counseling sessions. There are still a lot of people out there who are planning to start a business in the future. People who are still working on their business plan, people who are still trying to work on their business model, and taking advantage also of this particular opportunity to shift some of their ideas into something that is more appropriate with the current environment, the current setting. So in general, so that's pretty much what we've been very busy doing for the past almost 2 months. And we can say that we've seen quite a few interesting results, and especially we've had quite a few clients who've gotten approved for the different loan packages, whether the PPP or the EIDL or the BUU, etc.
Thank you, Edwidge. Vicki Gray is also on the Zoom and has been able to take advantage of resources through CWE. Vicki Gray is part of New Chapter Home Improvement. Vicki, would you like to share part of your experience?
Hi, good evening, ladies. Thank you so much, Farah, for the introduction. My name is Vicki Gray, and I am the owner and founder of New Chapter Home Improvement. We specialize in interior, exterior painting services. We also offer apartment turnovers and maintenance services as well. The clients we serve is the federal government and commercial property managers and commercial building owners, as well as high-end residential clients. I've been in business now for 8 years, and we are based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I also am one of the committee members for CWE. I sit on their strategic planning board as we figure out ways to offer new opportunities, classes, workshops, and ways to cater to women like you. So how has CWE helped me? When I started my business back 8 years ago, that's where I first went. So right now, what I would advise a lot of people is during this downtime, this is the best time to work on your business development. And that is what CWE is here to help with. You know, they're offering workshops, classes, consultations. Some of the workshops that are being offered is assistance with grant writing. A lot of people may have been denied previously for a lot of the grants that are out there now. And it may be because there's a specific way as to how to write grants and what they're actually looking for to be in the actual description when applying. So, you know, like Edwidge said, you can go to the website and you can actually see when these classes are going to be offered, what time. That way you can incorporate it into your busy schedule. Consultations. I was recently in a class with Interrise Strong. Mm-hmm. I was also offering CWE's legal services. They offer consultations with legal firms that they have partnerships with that would be able to provide you with legal consultation on some of the issues that you might be reaching or stumble upon due to COVID-19. One of the ladies that I had suggested to contact was having issues with the actual building that they were leasing. They're not having any income, so unfortunately, they're not able to pay their rent. Last but not least, they also offer bookkeeping classes. And a young lady also mentioned that some people did not get the loans, and it's probably because, no, there's so many reasons, excuse me, let me take that back. But a way that is very helpful is to have your back office in order. And that is meaning having your books up to date. You know, you want to make sure that you are showing where your revenue is coming from, where your expenses are going. And, you know, these classes and the instructors that CWE has will be more than happy to help you. And that way you look better when we get out of this crisis.
Thank you so much, Vicki. We are now also going to hear from Chris Cooney, who is the chair of the Metro South Chamber, to also say some words about resources available through Metro South. He did also drop a link about some recovery resources, but Chris, we'll also turn it over to you.
Thank you, Farah, and thank you, Kimberly, for this invitation to address your group. It's been really enlightening to hear about some of the stories. I've been with the Chambers for 30 years, working all over Southeastern Massachusetts, and mostly what I love about it is hearing the different stories about the different businesses and how you develop and how you are resilient and pivot and shift and survive and thrive and grow. And it's really extraordinary to hear these stories, and to have this support network is really extraordinary. We've worked, or I've worked with CWE over the years in letters of support and Edwidge's predecessors. You know, I know you're located up there north of Brockton, where we're based, but oftentimes your resources are really valuable to our members as well. And I know we've partnered on things in the past. I've been in Brockton for 22 years. and around the Supplier Diversity Office certifications and whatnot. So that's encouraging. So a lot of what you've heard from CWE, you can derive some of that same value from the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. As I said, we're located in Brockton. We service the entire region, about 18 communities. We are right across the street from the City Hall, and we operate a business assistance center. It's been operating since 2000. In partnership with the Small Business Administration. We have a strategic partnership and an MOU signed with them, and we have staff from their Boston office come down on a regular basis. We also have a SCORE chapter that has been co-located with us for over 50 years. They now have pivoted to online, so they're doing a lot more one-on-one counseling and assistance online like this. And so there's a link, as was mentioned, I shared. In there, you'll see a video, or actually several videos. We have a YouTube channel. One of them is with the new SCORE chairman, who we recorded yesterday. And he talks about how easy it is to get a second opinion on something that you are feeling, or you are pursuing, or you're thinking about pursuing. Whether that's using this time, as was mentioned, to recalibrate or develop your strategic plan, or whether it's just direct questions about this financing that's available right now through the Small Business Administration. As was mentioned, there's a lot of money out there available, and some of it's in the form of grants. I just want to, cite a couple of statistics. This was from a phone call from the first round of $330 billion that was set aside for small businesses and businesses in the U.S. There's been a second round approved, and it was made available beginning Monday. So today's Wednesday, it's still available. But in the first round, which concluded last week, for Massachusetts only, the EIDL loans, there were 16,538 approved in the state of Massachusetts for a total of $76 million. In talking to many of the small businesses who applied that first, second, third, fourth, fifth day, that money is hitting now. And so what they basically are doing is they're offering through the EIDL, they've changed it, to a G at the end, which is a grant for the first $10,000. So they're averaging awards of up to $1,000 per full-time employee. I can tell you, as a nonprofit, we're a private nonprofit, again, we applied. We have 5 employees, and we applied on the first day, and last Wednesday we received $5,000 in our account, and it said it was directly deposited SBA EIDG, which is a grant, and you basically have to fill out they say it's a 2-hour application. It took us about 10 minutes because we had our bookkeeper and our auditor available. We just kind of ran the numbers right down into the application, and it really took very, very little time. I would encourage you to apply for that if you have not. And that opens up additional funds through the EIDL program, but also then leads directly to the PPP program. As was mentioned, PPP is not for everybody, but we think we're advising people to apply for it through your local banker. And the average PPP loan, there were 47,000 approved businesses in Massachusetts in the first round for a total of $10.3 billion. And again, in talking to local bank presidents, the average award is about $170,000 for a business. That's enough to get a lot of businesses through this. Not all businesses, but it certainly is going to allow many to get out to the other side. It's also nonprofits. There was a question about nonprofits. Nonprofits are eligible for both. There are some provisions within the EIDL loan, like the PPP, like chambers of commerce, for example. We don't qualify for the PPP program, and I know some churches and some nonprofits do not qualify for one or the other, and sometimes both, depending. But again, it's those resources are really extraordinary at this time, and you'll find direct links to both those loans on our website. In addition, we have been hosting for the last 6 weeks sessions on Friday at 2 o'clock They're open to the public. There's no charge with the SBA, the Small Business Administration, directly. Eli Sayu is the liaison to over 150 banks and financial institutions for SBA Massachusetts and in the state of Massachusetts, and he is on the calls directly. He answers questions through the Q&A, and so I encourage you to let us know if you're interested. We'll send you a Zoom link like this, and you can get on the call. We have during that call updates from the mayor of Brockton, the state folks for unemployment. So last week we had a ton of calls or questions about unemployment, specifically, really specific questions. And what's great is after they give a quick update from the state, the Mass Office of Business Development, they then will jump on and they'll answer your questions one-on-one and let you know the answers to them. And there's more scenarios than you can imagine in terms of people being self-employed or being a contractor or wanting to cut their bookkeeper, let's say, from 40 hours or 30 hours down to 1 day a week. And then the question is, would they qualify for 8 weeks for an extra $600 a month? The answer we found out on Friday was yes, they will. And so that will make a difference to many, many people to make that decision to cut their expenses without doing so much harm to their bookkeeper. And obviously, as we come out of the other end of this, hopefully the bookkeeper in this example will come back and be available to come back to that business because they know the business. So what else can I say? We are a private nonprofit, again, based in Brockton, and we usually offer workshops in person, many over the year, and in partnership with many organizations. We have now shifted online, and we will be doing a lot more of that. I'm happy to answer questions or be available. My email address, I think I was asked if that could be shared. Absolutely. And if I can't answer the question, then I'll forward it on to somebody who I think can, and we'll get you an answer. But again, really impressed. I do want to bring up Diane Bell. I'm not sure, by a show of hands, how many people know Diane Bell from Bridgewater State University. So
Diane is part of our organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know this because she was our Athena Award recipient. Every year
That's right.
we celebrate a woman leader who's extraordinary, and she is absolutely extraordinary, and helps and works with the chamber and businesses to place students in paid internships throughout the region. And so she was my first link to this organization, but I can tell she's a great representative of the group, and really impressive. And so happy to bring her up. I was hoping to see her here tonight, but I'm very busy with everything going on at the university.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who has stayed on for this time. We'll be transitioning into the breakout sessions where each one of our panelists and Chris will have the opportunity to answer pointed questions. So for those of you who have questions that you want to direct at either one of our panelists in sort of a more kind of one-on-one format, you can send me a message in the chat and I will assign you to that chat room to have that one-on-one time. You can also just raise your hand once we transition to the breakout rooms, and I can assign you. This is an opportunity. If it was a live event, we would have had some time for people to ask one-on-one questions, but since we're virtual, we'll be using the breakout sessions to do that. If you don't have any questions, feel free to log off. But before we do so, we did have some final remarks from our Economic Legacy Committee Chair, Cheryl Goodlow. So Cheryl, if you want to say some words, and then we'll transition to the breakout rooms. And that will be about 15 minutes, the breakout rooms, just so.
Good evening, everyone. I will be very brief. I just wanted to say thank you all to the panelists for participating. I wanted to recognize our president, Suzwa, who was phenomenal and was very helpful in identifying some really great resources, particularly CWE. And Chris Cooney, thank you very much. The information that you shared was wonderful. I learned a lot. I'm a Brockton resident, and now I'm going to share that information with a lot of my friends. But mainly I wanted to give a special big shout out to Cece and Farah. They did a phenomenal job. This was their vision, their brainchild, and I think that they hit a home run, bringing it to fruition. And so I just want you guys to know that I'm so proud of you. Your leadership was phenomenal. I applaud you and I love you. Thank you.